Pixar does it again.
Yes. I would say this was a very good animated movie. I really enjoyed it. It got me emotional like a lot of Pixar movies do, but it's definitely not in that early tier of Pixar movies.
There's not a whole lot that is.
No.
I mean, especially animation-wise, but, I mean, even in general. There's, again, we've talked about it, there's an 11, well, technically it's like a 17 if you start in 95.
With Toy Story, yeah. There's a run that's brilliant. But, that being said, Onward was a movie that I found myself really, really enjoying. You know, I think Pixar does, family-oriented movies better than anyone around, and they do it really well. And there's also elements that are a little darker in this, which I kind of appreciated. Like, just the whole storyline involving, the father's dead, and they kind of dive into how he died and what, and it's like, that's kind of bleak for a kid's movie, you know?
Yeah. They don't really you just know he got sick.
Yeah, but that there's a specific scene with Chris Pratt where he's explaining his last memory of his father.
Well, the idea was that, Tom Holland's character had never had interactions. He never knew his dad.
I know. And he would always ask Barley. He'd always say, like, hey.
And he was having to deal with that. But then, as the story goes on, you realize, like, is it better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all?
Yeah.
It's the same type concept with just a dad, with a family member.
Yeah.
Except with his, it was, he had such a limited time, with Chris Pratt's character, had such a limited time with him, and he was so young.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's having to live with the regret of
not properly saying
goodbye.
Yeah. I thought the two, the voice cast, even though it's kind of small, as far as bigger name actors and actresses being in it.
Octavia Spencer's
she's the main one. So obviously the story is
she's really good.
The story is about two brothers that go on a quest to try and basically bring their father back from the dead for one day.
And it starts off for their birthday. They are given the spell and a stone and a wizard staff to bring their father back for a day, and they only complete half of it before the stone breaks.
Yeah. So the quest is them going to find another stone so that they can bring the rest of them back, so they can spend time with them. And so that's that part of the storyline. Well, the side storyline is the mother, who's Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and Octavia, and I forget the name of the beast that she is, but she's basically she looks like a griffin, kind of like she's like a lion with wings, I guess.
Yeah, but she's also with a scorpion. She's got the scorpion.
She's got the scorpion tail. That's right, dude. There were several things I thought about since we saw it last night, and it was like, one, they committed multiple crimes to Octavia Spencer and Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Now, they were really funny.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was. Usually, there's a side storyline in these type of movies that I am like, I kind of get bored of, and I was like, I could watch a movie of them.
The funny part about that dynamic was good, but I liked the fact that Julia Louis-Dreyfus, she kept hearing what her sons were doing, but then she kept hearing that Tom Holland was the one doing it, and she would be like, good for you.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that was very. They kind of did that in Nemo as well, where it's the pelican comes forward. He's like, no, your dad took on a shark. He goes, that's not my dad.
Yeah.
And he's like, no. And then he explains. He's like, that's my dad. He goes, yeah, I heard he took on 3 sharks.
Yeah.
But you're right.
And then you find out but you also got Chris Pratt, who's he's bold in general, and he's got no issues being himself and speaking his mind, and to find out why he's that way.
Yeah.
And
to
see Tom Holland start to become.
Well, he was
finding himself.
Yeah, he was always he was really shy, individual who
awkward.
He didn't really make a lot of friends. He didn't, and he never knew his dad, and he always not resented that fact, but he just wished he had known his dad. Like, he always heard things about him and how wonderful he was. But I thought, that being said, I did think the formula, though, it felt very kind of predictable. But the reason I think it was a good movie and why Pixar is so great is that even though for me it was pretty predictable and you knew how it was going to kind of play out, it still hit. Like, there's oftentimes you see movies like this and it didn't work for me. And this one, it still did. And I think part of that has to do with I'm a sucker for
I think
legitimate
part of
kind
it too
of
is
adventure
you know
movie.
how it's going to play out, but while there is no really twist or like shock in how it plays out, how it's presented and packaged is done very well.
Well, that's just it. It's Pixar was able to still make it emotionally effective, and that's something.
And while it is, you feel like it's something you've seen before. It is original, like in terms of the atmosphere and.
It's basically what if the wizarding world just also modernized with the human world, and instead of people.
Well, like they were elves.
They were elves, and there were
pixies,
there's the centaur, and here's the thing is that they package it all clearly up front, which is like along the way people stopped focusing on magic because technology was just as good as magic
and much easier.
So basically, there's like all these creatures that are just
these mythical creatures
they're mythical creatures that are just basically normal human lives.
Yeah.
And I guess that's kind of funny, but the fact is that they could only do it in this world because for them to go on this quest, they had to explain like, no, magic is real. It's like a lost art, as opposed to in real human life. It's like magic's not real. Like you can't, like I couldn't pick up a stick and control it and levitate things, but they do a good job of just easily explaining that. And that it's a part of Tom Holland becoming like a man is by the use of magic, because apparently he can do magic.
And not everybody can. And
I was about to say
they do a good job of doing that. Like Chris Pratt
tried over and over. Well,
it's not just that. It's like, but he was like perfectly like. He realized it wasn't like he was like down on himself or anything. Like he tried, but then it was like, and then Tom Holland did it, and it was like. He just accepted the fact that that's how it was. Like, some people have
I really liked Chris Pratt's character because of that. Like, he never... And that's part of the story, is that he was always super supportive of his brother, and he would always try and get his brother to do things, but also at the same time, usually... And that's something I did like about this. Usually in a movie like this, that person, someone that's really kind of cool, or, maybe not popular, has a lot... Chris Pratt's character is not really a cool individual.
He's an outcast.
Yeah, he's a social outcast who likes doing
he's
basically nature protests and also playing like a D&D nerd, basically.
Yeah, but he's
Dungeons and Dragons.
Except in this world, that game is based in
reality.
He's a history buff.
Yeah. That's right. And actually no, not nature buff, because the thing that he's trying to preserve is like
the past.
It's like a water fountain. Yeah, it's like the past. But that being said, he didn't. That's part of that whole development of character and watching how it all plays out. It does emotionally hit is seeing how Chris Pratt, like he didn't care what people thought about him.
No,
and it's a part of his story, like you said, and that's what. Yeah, at the end, the ending really does hit. Like I cried like that. It got me.
Yeah,
and like I said. Even though I knew what was going to happen, yet it still hit, Especially, how at the beginning he made that list. I was like, it was like, that the list is going to be, it was actually the adventures that we had along the way. And that which, funny enough, my first thought was, This was an episode of Arthur that I really remember, where Arthur had a to-do list during the summer, and he couldn't find the to-do list, and the summer was almost running out. And at the end of the episode, he finds the list, and he's going through the list, and he realizes he did do all that. Because it was like, you're not, instead of focusing on having to do things, you just do them. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that was a side. I did remember that during the movie last night. I was like, these sons of bitches stole it from Arthur. But, I mean, that was my favorite show.
Disney was hoping to get away with it.
I know. We could sue on behalf of Arthur.
I don't think we could.
We could let them know and say, like, here, throw us a quick, I don't know, $5. If we're suing Disney? $5 million? I don't know.
I don't understand why we're suing Disney.
Listen, I'm bringing it up. No,
we have personal stake in Arthur?
I do, man. Used to watch that show all the time coming home from preschool. But, no. That being said, I really did like this movie. I did like how it looked. I liked the jokes playing along, how there were these mythical creatures in like a modern world.
And there are some funny parts.
No,
I mean, it's much like any Pixar movie.
There's some genuinely funny parts.
Mm-hmm. It touches on all emotions.
Mm-hmm. I also thought
do a good job.
I thought the voice cast was really good. Tom Holland's solid. Chris Pratt's really good. That was going into it. I wouldn't say skeptical, but I didn't know how I would feel about Chris Pratt being in a voice cast, and he was great because he is such a kind of animated person to begin with.
Yeah.
That I thought he was fantastic.
I was skeptical about both of them, and I thought they both did.
Yeah, I just thought Chris Pratt did better than Tom.
Oh yeah,
I mean Tom.
Well, no, Chris Pratt like stands out when you're watching the movie, and you're like, oh, he's really got this.
Yeah, but yeah, that was good. What would you give this?
B plus.
I think
that's tough. I might even go as high as A minus.
The way I'm looking at it, I think I would give it a B plus as well, because I'm thinking about other Pixar movies that I would give an A minus, and then I go, this is not.
We talked about this last night, and we will have a Pixar video in the upcoming months. Probably after Soul comes out, we'll do one of all the Pixars leading up. We'll rank them or do something.
No, we'll definitely
we'll go through the Pixar movies, but there is with Pixar in both our minds. I think there's a definitive 10 that we would probably put in top 100 movies of all time category.
I for sure have 5. I have 5 for sure.
But my point is, there's probably about 10 that if somebody told me within that top 10, if somebody said that's the best Pixar movie,
I'd be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, you couldn't argue with them because they're all that good.
Yeah, I would agree.
And then there is a step down.
Mm-hmm.
And they're still really good movies, but they're just not quite
that caliber.
Yeah.
And this is
in that step down category. It's still really good.
Yeah.
It's just, to me, it's still in that category of an Inside Out, which I thought was really good, but not quite as good as.
Well, you brought it up last.
I think Brave is also really good. But
see, I liked Inside Out a little bit more than Onward, but I liked Onward more than Brave. For me,
see, that's my point. To me, they're all in that category. That's just that one step down.
Well,
the one step down is from something like WALL-E, Finding Nemo, the original Toy Stories. The Incredibles, Ratatouille.
God, Ratatouille's so good.
Up. I mean, there's that group of movies are above everything else, and then again, there's a step down, and this is in that step down. I think it's better than stuff like. Again, we don't have to rate these right now. It probably is better than something than the Cars movies.
Oh yeah.
Even though I really enjoy the Cars movies, but just the quality of overall movie, like the emotions that it hits.
Onward also, it helped that I kind of went into it with somewhat limited expectations. And I walked away really pleased. You know, I wouldn't say I was surprised because it is a Pixar movie, so I kind of hold them in high regard. But my expectations were pretty realistic, and I walked away, I was happy with what I had seen. I do think it's what you mentioned last night, and it's a good point. Is a lot of those earlier Pixar movies, the ones that you were talking about, are borderline, if not perfect. There's a certain, it almost feels like a magical quality to them. Not like literally, but just while watching them, it feels like magic.
Yeah,
like it feels.
There's an essence about just the way the movies flow. There's something about them, and I've never been able to truly put my finger
I was
on
like,
it.
do you think it's just because we watched these when we were kids? And you said, I get that same feeling when I saw Up. And you were 20 when you saw Up, and I was like, well, okay, that's a good point. So, I mean...
Yeah, it's not just the kids thing. I mean, we go back through, and there's... One of the, like... There are newer ones that are really close to that, but there's just, again, there's...
I would think Inside Out and this one are probably the closest we've got. So...
really, because I honestly do. I think I would put Toy Story 4 and Incredibles 2 in this group.
Oh, see, I think I may like Onward more than those two.
Really? Mm-hmm. See, I think Incredibles 2 is really, really good.
Well, Incredibles 2 is super entertaining, but for me, Toy Story 4, I told you, second time I watched it, it didn't get me as much. Mm-hmm. It was fun. It was funny. It was fine.
To me, I think what happened with that one. See, I've seen Incredibles 2 since.
I've seen it 3 times.
I've seen it twice, but I've seen it once when it came, once in theaters, and then since it's come out, and I had watched the other movies. After watching the other Pixar movies, my view of Incredibles 2 stood where it standed, it didn't change much. But after rewatching the other Pixars, and specifically, we had just gotten done watching Toy Story 3.
Yeah.
And
Toy Story 3 ended perfectly.
And then you watched Toy Story 4 and you were like,
they didn't have
this is good, but they didn't have to.
In no way did they need to do this. But yeah, this is Onward. I really did enjoy. I really enjoyed it. I think everyone should go see it. I think it's hilarious. It is really funny. It's an awesome buddy adventure movie, which I'm kind of a sucker for. It's awesome. Also, I also got emotional too because it tugs on the heartstrings, especially if you have someone that's a brother. I mean, me and you, which was, I thought, you don't see it too often, which is like a sibling kind of bromance story, which I thought was really enjoyable to watch.
Yeah.
And
it was good.
And that was something that I really enjoyed about this movie. So yeah, if you have a sibling, I would recommend going to see it with them because it gives you that really warm feeling about just loving your family. But yeah, I don't know.
That's it, man.
I was about to say, I think we pretty much discussed everything that we can without going too much into spoilers.
What else he's got another Pixar movie, hasn't he?
No. Remember, we looked this up, and what happened was we thought for a second I thought it was Pete Docter, but Pete Docter's the one that
he's doing Soul.
He's doing Soul, and he did Inside Out.
Gotcha.
So, but yeah, that was our take on Onward. I really enjoyed it.
I would definitely recommend going to see it.
Yeah, for sure.
If you're not scared away about the coronavirus,
for real.
The theater.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, with all this theater going to, that we're one day you're not just going to see us and that we're just hacking up a lung or something. So, but we should be okay. And but yeah, that was our take on Onward, and just catch us next time. So see ya.